Okay, let's try something. I'm going to say two words: mice and rats. What just popped into your head? For most of us, it's probably not great, right? We're thinking pests, sewers, maybe even disease. But what if I told you that's just a tiny piece of a way bigger and honestly way more fascinating story? Let's get into it and uncover the hidden world of these surprisingly complex creatures.
So, to really get this, we've got to start with the image we all know, the reputation that kind of follows them everywhere. Yeah, let's just call it what it is, the villain stereotype.
And look, this isn't just some casual dislike. It runs deep. So deep, in fact, that even the absolute legend, Sir David Attenborough, has said that rats are one of his least favorite animals. I mean, when a guy who's seen pretty much every creature on the planet feels that way, you know that reputation is a powerful thing.
And honestly, it's not hard to see why, right? Our history with them is, well, it's been rocky, to say the least. We think about them getting into our homes, our food, destroying crops, and of course, there's the big one. We link them to some of the worst pandemics in history, like the Black Death. That fear is so real it even has a name: moosophobia. So yeah, this whole villain image is seriously baked into our culture.
Okay, but what if all of that is only half the story? What if there's a totally different side to these animals? It's time to take a second look and maybe flip our whole perspective. This is where things get really interesting. On one hand, you have our common perception: pest, disease carrier, but on the other hand, the hidden reality. We're talking scientific partner, a literal landmine detector, and even a beloved cultural icon. It's a total mismatch, right?
Okay, we have to stop and talk about this one for a second because it is absolutely incredible. In parts of Africa, there are these giant pouched rats, and they are trained to find landmines. Think about that. Their sense of smell is so good, and they're so light they don't set the mines off. Their work has cleared thousands of explosives, saving countless lives and giving people their land back. I mean, these are actual hero rats.
And it doesn't stop there. Culturally, they're huge. The rat is the very first animal in the Chinese zodiac. There's a temple in India where they are literally honored. In places like Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, they're a food source. And then you have pop culture. I mean, Mickey Mouse, Pikachu, Stuart Little, some of the biggest stars in the world. So suddenly, the simple picture of good or bad starts to get a whole lot more complicated, doesn't it? All right, so let's bring this story home, specifically to Australia. Because here, beyond the pests we all know, the common house mouse or the black rat, there is this whole other hidden world, a universe of unique native species that, honestly, most of us have never even heard of.
Get ready for this number. More than 60. Just let that sink in for a second. Over 60 different species of native rats and mice call Australia home. We're not talking about the couple of introduced pests you might find in your shed. We're talking about a massive, incredibly diverse family of native mammals that have evolved here, perfectly adapted to everything from the driest deserts to the wettest rainforests.
And just check out their names. How cool are these? They paint such a great picture. You've got hopping mice, stick nest rats that build these crazy elaborate homes. There are rock rats, tree rats, and then there's the ricali, Australia's very own native water rat, which is basically our version of an otter. These are a world away from the pests you're thinking of. And here's the most important part. These animals aren't just there. They have a job to do. You could call them essential engineers of the Aussie bush. They're out there spreading seeds, helping plants grow, and they're also a super important food source for everything from snakes and owls to quolls. They are an absolutely critical link in the food web.
But, and here's where the story takes a turn, all of this incredible hidden diversity is facing a silent and totally devastating crisis. And it's one that most of us, myself included, probably haven't even heard about. Okay, brace yourselves, because these numbers are just staggering. 13 species of our native murids are already gone, extinct, forever. And it gets worse. Nearly half of all the species that are left, that's 29 of them, are currently listed as threatened, endangered, or rare. This is one of the worst extinction crises for any mammal group in Australia, period. So the big question is, why? What's going on? Well, a huge reason comes down to something scientists call the critical weight range. Basically, most of our native murids fall into this Goldilocks zone for predators. They're just big enough to be a tempting meal for feral cats and foxes, but they're way too small to really fight back.
They are, tragically, the perfect size snack.
And if you want a real-world heartbreaking example, look no further than the Bramble Cay Melomys. This little guy was the only mammal that lived exclusively on the Great Barrier Reef. Its entire world was one tiny island, which was completely swallowed by rising sea levels. This isn't just another statistic. The Bramble Cay Melomys holds the awful title of being the very first mammal known to have gone extinct because of human-caused climate change. And check out this crazy domino effect that happened on Christmas Island. So, introduced black rats show up. They bring a disease with them that wipes out 2 of the native rat species, but it doesn't stop there. A special tick that only lived on those native rats, it goes extinct too. And then, because the native rats were the main predator of the island's red crabs, the crab population just explodes. Losing just 2 species completely threw the whole ecosystem into chaos.
So this all brings us to the most important question, right? What do we do about it? Well, the first step, and maybe the biggest one, isn't about building more fences. It's about changing how we think. Here's the heart of the issue. Our automatic negative attitude, the way we lump every small furry rodent into the pest box, has had a real and really damaging impact. When people hear the word rat, their first thought is get rid of it. And that mindset makes it almost impossible to get people excited about saving and funding the native species that desperately need our help.
And we have the proof. I mean, a recent study confirmed what we all kind of suspect deep down. The cute, charismatic animals, like the koala, get way, way more conservation money than the so-called less charismatic ones. Our bias for what's cute has actual life or death consequences for amazing animals like the central rock rat or the stick nest rat.
And that really leaves us with one last and pretty challenging question. It forces all of us to look right past our own biases. Think about it. If a koala looked like a rat, would we still fight so hard to save it? Because conservation shouldn't be a popularity contest. It's about protecting every piece of the puzzle. So we really have to ask ourselves, does an animal's worth come from how it looks, or from its place in the world?